Hey YouTube, Bloodbow here. I know I don't talk about World of Warcraft a lot on this channel. I have made one other video previously on it. I've had a lot of thoughts on Dragonflight as a whole, and as the talent trees have been slowly put out, I've gotten increasingly more hype. Now personally, I'm a Demon Hunter main, and I have been since Legion. It was always something that I really wanted to play. I remember playing Warcraft 3 and thinking that Illidan was so cool, and that I always wanted to play a Demon Hunter in WoW. And it took a long time, but they finally made that a reality, and I've been playing Demon Hunter ever since. A little bit about myself when it comes to World of Warcraft. I'm not exactly a casual player, but I'm far from being a hardcore player. I've never done cutting edge stuff. I've done a couple progression on mythic bosses. I've gotten some ahead of the curve achievements, mostly in Legion. I'm not a very consistent WoW player. I've been playing off and on since 2006. Take that as what you will. I mostly do PvP. I've gotten 2100 in RBGs, 1800 in 3s, and 1900 in 2s. And I can pretty consistently do plus 15 keys, 10 to 15 during the beginning and a little bit farther through. I never really thought much about doing like 20 plus keys. I think that's more of like a hardcore, like really pushing yourself. Like that's not really me. So I just stick with the other stuff. That means that I'm not like a wealth of knowledge about this stuff like somebody like Max would be. And of course he's gonna have his video with a bunch of great people that are way smarter than me on that. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the tree since I've gotten so much more hyped as everything's come out, and I think that I've been the most hyped about this tree. As any Demon Hunter has been, I think a lot of us have been really disappointed with the lack of variety in our playstyle. We get stuck with playing Chaos Strike, Trail of Ruin, Blade Dance type stuff for so long. It's either that or you're doing the I-beam thing, trying to get as many I-beam and reduce your cooldown of your metamorphosis as much as possible. And I don't know. I think that's kind of boring. I think we've been doing it for way too long. We have had one instance, I remember back in the day, when Bloodlet momentum was a thing. And then for a short period of time in PvP and like Nighthold because of the Vial, we had Fel Barrage as something that we could do. But honestly, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't play through all of BFA, didn't play through all of Shadowlands, but overall, Fel Barrage has been an absolutely terrible ability, and I'm disappointed that they brought it back. With that said, let's transition into talking about the Havoc tree, which I'm the most excited about, and I think that there's going to be a new build style that we're going to be able to play, and that's what this is kind of set up to look like, so that I can talk about it a little bit. Now, that build style, I think is going to be centered around using your Immolation aura. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff that it's going to allow us to do. We're going to be able to generate more fury. We're going to be able to go here and increase the duration of it. That's pretty nice. One of the crucial things that's going to make this build work is up at the top. We're going to be getting additional fury from it, and then we're going to be able to have an increased duration. Now, there are some other stuff that allows your Immolation aura to synergize a lot better with your other abilities, and that's going to be Unbound Chaos. It's going to increase the damage of your Fel Rush. So one of the cool things about Rage Fire down here is that whenever our Immolation aura crits, we're going to store that as Rage Fire, and then when our Immolation aura explodes, we do all of that stored Rage Fire damage to nearby enemies. That's pretty cool, and that means with this duration increase, we'll be able to do a little bit more damage when it explodes. And then we have down here, every time it deals damage, it increases by a little bit. Since it's going on longer, it's going to be ramping up, and then it'll be doing that big explosion at the end. And then you have another synergy skill, which is just going to allow your glaive throw to do a little bit extra damage through your Fel Bombardment. So that's a nice little additional thing as well. So over here, Burning Wound, that's going to allow you to do a little bit more damage from your Immolation aura, as well as just increase a little bit more of your chaos damage as well. So that's always something nice to have. That's the extent of the Immolation aura there, but that's not the end of it. We also have some increased quality of life things to the build as well. You're going to be able to get additional crit chance strike from the Demon Hunter tree, and then we can also, mostly as a PvP type thing, but we can increase our armor and do a little bit of extra damage with whenever we get attacked. You don't have to take that. It's mostly the crit chance one that's really good, but that's about it. And that's what that's probably like the theoretical like thing that I'm like the most excited for. Now I did previously mention Bloodlet is a thing that we used to have with momentum, and that actually comes back. It comes back as Soul Rend. So Soul Rend is going to allow us to, bring back that dot and have it tick, which is kind of cool. There are some increases in the tree that can increase your ricochet, increase your charges. That's all pretty cool. And it just brings back, like an older feel that many of us have been nostalgic about, or at least I have. I don't know about anybody else, but we'll be getting that back. Now there are some issues with the Havoc tree in general. Essence Break, I'm still just not convinced that this is a very good ability. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it actually is. Like every time I saw it on the old talent tree and even on this one, I'm not really impressed by it. I don't think it's really that great. That's just not something I'm very excited for. Just as a fresh new take on playing Demon Hunter that also plays into that old nostalgia from Warcraft 3 with Immolation aura. So I just thought I might as well mention it. I think it was really cool. Of course, all that praise for the Havoc tree, there's got to be some negatives, and a lot of those negatives are focused in the Demon Hunter tree. I think that the Demon Hunter tree is pretty bad. Blizzard don't really know what they want to do with Vengeance as a whole, and I think to a lesser extent they don't really know what they want to do with the Havoc utility as well, and I think they threw it all onto the Demon Hunter tree to just see what sticks. I think first off, one of the most glaring things that's going to be an issue, I think one of the things that is the most glaring issue on this tree is this. I think the Sigil of Silence being on the tree and being able to be easily accessed by any Havoc is a problem. I think that there's a reason why in the past they nerfed Arcane Torrent to not be as good as it was, and I think allowing Havoc Demon Hunters to have access to this AoE interrupt is really bad for the game. Now, you could say, but it's just a 2-minute cooldown. Yeah, but I think giving this much utility to Havoc is just not good. And you can really easily take Sigil of Misery as well and have a fear. I don't think that that's good for Havoc. I think it's really bad, and I think it has a negative impact on all the other classes as well. I think it really diminishes what they can offer, and I think it really puts Havoc way ahead. Now, this is probably way too much to say off of just one little thing, but there's some other things that I think are also an issue, and these are mostly on the Vengeance side. For Vengeance, I think one of the issues for Vengeance that is just, it's not favorable for others, is I think having blur, not only blur but also darkness on the tree, and then I think being able to pull one of Havoc's historically best defensive cooldowns, I don't think that makes for a fun time for any of the other tanks. I am fine with darkness being on the tree since we had the legendary in Shadowlands. I found a lot of very good use from it. I think it's very good for Vengeance when it comes to PvP. You're carrying a flag, having access to that darkness, that's really solid. As well as in certain keys, being able to have that additional lifeline, it's just solid. And you can also use it to help out your teammates as well. But I think Vengeance having access to both of them, that's just a problem. Having the trees so mixed up together, I think it poses a very big issue for Havoc in PvP because of how much leech and everything that they're gonna have access to. So that's something I would kind of want to see change as well. Just limit the amount of just stat modifiers in here. You got the 2% health over here, you got this over here reducing magic damage. Havoc can take both if they really needed to. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that's kind of a bad thing. And one thing that I think negatively impacts both when it comes to PvP, I think Lost in Darkness is way too far out of the way for any usefulness. You probably will be trying to go for Charred Warblades in PvP as a Havoc, just I guess to have that additional heal. I think Lost in Darkness should be in the middle of the tree. I think Vengeance and Havoc, should have to be making a choice for it. I think that PvP, you really want this. I think, you're sitting on a flag at a Wrathy Basin. You want to be spamming your Spectral Sight. Rogue hits you while you're spamming it. You have that additional 6 seconds when they go into stealth. You definitely want this. Now, it's not really good for PvE. Maybe you want to make some sort of node choice with it so that PvP, PvE, it's something stuck on there. That could be kind of cool. we'll just have to see with that. I'd like to see it in a more easily accessible place that you would want to take it for certain content. Kind of just looking at the tree. Is it just me, or is the hunt being on the regular tree and not being a choice, but over on Havoc's tree, it is a choice to take Elysian Decree? Now, I know at the beginning it was, but like, wasn't most people that were taking Elysian Decree, weren't they Vengeance Demon Hunters? I don't think that it really belongs on the Havoc tree. I think that's more of like a choice node, or just like you swap the hunt and swap Elysian Decree. When I think about Demon Hunter, I think it's really easy for Demon Hunter to become really strong, and it's also really easy for us to become really weak. And I don't want to see Blizzard make unnecessary things for us that could really diminish our experience in this game. So I think they need to be really careful with us. That's about it that I have to say about Demon Hunter. I did not expect all of the sigils to be on the tree. As I mentioned earlier, I think that's definitely a problem, and hopefully they'll be able to fix it. What did you think? You know, do you agree with a lot of my speculation on potential stuff we're going to be able to do, or am I wrong? Now, obviously, I can't really talk about the Vengeance tree because Vengeance tree doesn't really exist.